Ever get that, like, almost creepy feeling when you're talking to an AI and it's responding in a way that's just so, well, human?
Yeah, it's getting pretty uncanny, isn't it?
It really is. And today we're going deep on some brand new stuff from OpenAI that adds a whole new layer to
They
this.
just dropped these new AI models, right?
Exactly. They're specifically designed for transcribing speech and generating voices. But not just any voices, voices that
Like
sound.
scarily realistic.
Exactly. And the really wild part, it's all accessible through their API. So developers can basically just plug this tech right into their own apps and services.
Which means we're probably going to be seeing this everywhere pretty soon.
You got it.
Yeah, let me pull this up. So this is OpenAI.fm. It's a website we built just to make it easy to play with this new model. So as you can see, there are a bunch of voices that you can choose from. There are different prompts that we pre-generated, but you can also type in your own. So this is basically a new field that we added. It's an instructions field that tells the model how you want it to speak the text. So yeah, let's maybe try some
Mad scientist, please.
exactly, yeah. As you can see, like we prompted basically like how we want to deliver, what kind of tone we want
High
to have.
energy, it's chaotic.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
right,
Let's see.
see what that's like.
And it may be busy
All right, busy
already.
model.
Yeah, let's try again.
One more time.
Ahaha! The stars tremble before my genius. The rift is open, the energy surging. Unstable? Perhaps. Dangerous. Most certainly. Captain Ryland.
This is really intense.
Okay, so that's a lot. I'm curious if we took the same voice and tried to, let's
Yeah,
make it
let's-
serene.
Yeah, let's
10 a.m.
see.
here.
How about we?
Let's say the live stream is going really well.
Yes.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Type in under pressure.
You
Let's see
did
how it
good.
goes.
This live stream is going really well. You are doing great.
Thank you. So that's super fun. I love the retro look. If developers want to play with this and actually figure out how to code against it, what do they do?
Yeah, so you can just click here, and then we show you basically some snippets in Python, JavaScript, or if you just prefer to curl it directly.
And just to be clear, the tone, the personality is not tuned into the model. It's just prompted.
Exactly, yes. You can just prompt.
So for our deep dive today, we're going to break it all down. What exactly can these new models do? How do they compare to the older stuff out there? And maybe even more importantly, what are the implications? Like, how is this all going to change the way we interact with AI in the future?
Sounds like a plan. And all of this is going to be straight from the source, right?
Absolutely. We're going to be basing all of this directly on OpenAI's announcements and the reporting around them. No speculation, just the facts.
Love it. So where do we start?
Well, I think the best place to start is with OpenAI's bigger vision. They're not just talking about making AI voices sound a bit better,
They're going way beyond that.
right? They're talking about building these things called agentic systems.
It's agentic.
Yeah, it's kind of a mouthful. Basically, think of them as AI entities that can do stuff for us, like autonomously. Olivia Goodmall, who's OpenAI's head of product, actually gave a really clear example.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, what do you say?
He described an agent as a chatbot that can actually have a spoken conversation with a customer, not just typing back and forth, but actually speaking.
Okay, now that's interesting. So we're not just talking about AI that sounds more human. We're talking about AI that can actually act independently and interact with us in a much more, well, human way.
You got it. And Goodman even hinted that we'll be seeing a lot more of these agents popping up soon.
I bet. So they're really pushing for this future where AI assistants are just woven into our daily lives, doing all sorts of things for us.
Exactly. And the thing is, they're really emphasizing that these agents need to be useful, available, and accurate. Those were his exact words.
Okay, so they're not just aiming for cool tech, they're aiming for tech that actually makes a difference.
Right. And that brings us to their brand new text-to-speech model. It's called GP-40 Mini DRTs. And they're claiming that this model is way more than just an improvement in how the AI sound.
They're saying it's like a whole new level of realism.
Exactly. They're talking about nuance and this ability to generate speech that sounds almost indistinguishable from a human voice.
Wow. I mean, we've all heard those older AI voices that sound robotic and, well, kind of creepy. So the idea that they've achieved this level of realism is pretty amazing.
It is, but the thing that really caught my eye was this concept of steerability. Basically, developers can use natural language instructions to tell the AI how to speak.
So you're saying they can control the tone of voice, like tell it to sound happy or sad.
Exactly. They could tell it to speak with the authority of a news anchor, or use a soft, comforting tone, or even sound like a mad scientist.
That's insane. The possibilities are endless. Think about how this could revolutionize things like e-learning. You could have an AI tutor that adjusts its tone of voice based on the student's emotional state.
Or imagine audiobooks narrated by AI that can actually convey the emotions of the characters. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. And Jeff Harris from OpenAI's product team talked about how they're giving developers all this control to tailor both the experience and the context of the voice. It's not just about the words being spoken, it's about the entire delivery.
Right. He actually gave a really powerful example related to customer service. Imagine a company messes up, and instead of getting a generic apology from a bot, you get a voice that sounds genuinely apologetic and empathetic.
That would make a huge difference.
It would. It's about making these AI interactions feel more human, more authentic.
Absolutely, and that ties back to that whole agentic vision we were talking about. If these AI agents are going to be a part of our lives, they need to be able to build trust and rapport.
And conveying emotion through voice is a huge part of that.
Totally agree.
Okay, so we've talked about AI talking. Now let's flip the script and talk about AI listening. OpenAI has also released these new speech-to-text models. They're called GPT-4o Transcribe and GP-4o Mini Transcribed.
So these are basically replacing their older whisper model.
Right. And the big leap forward here is the training data. They trained these new models on way more diverse audio data, which means
They should be better at understanding different accents and variations in speech, right?
exactly. And they should also be better at filtering out noise. So, like, if you're in a crowded room, the AI should still be able to understand what you're saying.
Okay, that makes sense. But I also remember reading something about them improving the accuracy of the transcriptions, too.
Oh, yeah. Harris talked about how these new models are much better at avoiding hallucinations.
Hallucination.
Yeah, it sounds kind of freaky, right? But it was a real problem with the older whisper model. Sometimes it would just invent words or even entire sentences that were never actually spoken.
Oh, wow. That's not good. I can imagine that causing all sorts of problems.
Right. Harris even gave some pretty scary examples, like the AI inserting racial commentary or making up medical advice. Definitely not what you want from a transcription tool.
No kidding. So accuracy is a huge deal.
Absolutely. Harris was very clear about that. He said accuracy is absolutely essential for a trustworthy voice experience. You need to be able to trust that the AI is actually hearing what you're saying and not just making stuff up.
Makes sense. But how does this all play out in different languages? I mean, AI models tend to perform better with some languages than others, right?
That's a great question. And the answer is yes, there are still some limitations when it comes to specific languages.
So even with all these improvements, there's still work to be done.
Definitely. And OpenAI was pretty upfront about that. They released some internal benchmark data, and it showed that for certain languages like Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada, their most accurate model still has a word error rate of around 30%.
So basically, 3 out of every 10 words could be wrong. That's a pretty big margin of error.
It is, and it just goes to show that while there's been a lot of progress, there's still a ways to go, especially when it comes to making sure these technologies work well for everyone, regardless of what language they speak.
Totally agree. So shifting gears a bit, there's something else that stood out to me. OpenAI isn't planning to make these new transcription models open source, which is kind of surprising because they made their older Whisper model open source, right?
Right, that's a big change, and Harris explained that it's partly because these new models are way bigger than Whisper.
So they need a lot more computing power.
Exactly. They're not really designed to run on a typical laptop.
So it's a scalability issue.
Right. But Harris also hinted that OpenAI is being more strategic about what they choose to make open source. They want to make sure that anything they release publicly is really honed for a specific purpose.
Interesting. So they're being more selective about what they share with the world.
Exactly. And he even mentioned that end-user devices could be an interesting area for open source models in the future. So it sounds like they're thinking carefully about how to make this technology accessible while also ensuring it's used responsibly.
Makes sense.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've covered. OpenAI has just released some really impressive new tech for both generating and understanding speech. Their new text-to-speech model is all about creating super realistic and controllable voices, and their new transcription models are a big step forward in accuracy and avoiding those hallucinations that plague the older Whisper model.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is, and we also need to remember that there's still work to be done when it comes to accuracy in certain languages. And OpenAI's approach to open sourcing these new models is a bit different this time around, but overall, it's clear that they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI and voice.
And that whole idea of agentic systems is really at the heart of it all. They're not just trying to improve audio tech for its own sake. They're trying to build more sophisticated AI assistants that can communicate with us in a more natural and intuitive way.
Exactly. Exactly. So thinking about all of this, the increasingly human-like voices, the more accurate transcription, and this push towards more capable agentic systems, how do you think all of this is going to change the way we interact with technology?
I mean, it's hard to say for sure, but I think it's safe to say that things are about to get really interesting.
I think so too. And it really makes you wonder what new possibilities and challenges will emerge as these AI agents become more and more integrated into our lives. It's definitely something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
For sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And be sure to check back next time for another fascinating look at the world of AI.